Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik from Figured Out Productions. The following video is a video of some kind, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hey guys, it's Adam here, and welcome to PlayLoad. This is all my video game pickups for the month of January 2025. And first of all, Happy New Year. Secondly, that's a lie. There's actually a lot more stuff than this. So I just came back from Japan. I was there for effectively a month, so there's a ton of stuff. However, the majority of those items come from two different store chains. One's called Hard Off and one's called Suragaya. I figured for each of those stores, because there was so much stuff, that I would basically give them each separate pickups videos. Otherwise, this one video would be way too long. So hopefully you guys look forward to enjoying that. Also, I filmed a ton of footage of the adventure as far as game hunting goes, so I don't know when those videos will come out or how many of them there will be. I just got off the plane like 15 hours ago, and I slept for a very long time, and already I need more sleep. I can feel jet lag hitting me. So I don't know how many that'll be or when they'll roll out, but they're coming. So this is just pickups from a few things that were mailed in, as well as a few random items that came from other stores that are not Hard Off and were not Suragaya. So with that said, we'll go ahead and talk about them. But before we do that, though, if you guys could do me a favor, please like this video, comment down below, subscribe if you've never done that before, as well as check out all the social media stuff in the description: Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, Patreon, Spreadshirt, Travel Channel, etc. I appreciate the support on those platforms. Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and get into it. And yes, the Travel Channel will have a ton of new videos from all of this, and I hope you guys will enjoy those as well. Now, so the first store that we went to is, I had some buddies I was hanging out with throughout various parts of this trip, was Book Off. Now, Book Off is a chain that I used to absolutely love. I would go there back in like 2017, 2018, maybe even late as 2019, and still find really good stuff. But Book Off's kind of turned into GameStop a little bit. What I mean by that is their retro sections kind of died off and was kind of low quality, and they largely focused on newer used content, meaning if you want Switch games, great. PS4, PS5, whatever, good place to go. But like anything else, you're lucky if they have much that would be of even remote interest to you. They don't have a whole lot of games outside of that anymore. So it's kind of rare. The only two we found anything at, one was a Book Off Super Bazaar, which those can actually have decent retro game sections still, although the prices can kind of suck. But I went to one and I actually found something. For the Xbox 360, I don't remember the name of this game, something extra. It's a shoot 'em up of some kind, not badly priced, etc. So I was happy to get it. And I don't remember the name. In a lot of the cases, I'm not going to, because like I said, I just got off the plane. I've had no time to do any homework on anything. I remembered it at the time. I knew I needed it. But yeah, for those who don't know, the Xbox 360 is, contrary to popular belief, the Xbox brand wasn't always dead in Japan. For the first few years of the 360's life in Japan, it actually was successful enough that it had a pretty large library of exclusive content. Now, a lot of that would be unplayable to us, things like graphic novels, etc., unless you can read or speak Japanese. But this one's actually a game, or to my understanding, it's an actual shoot 'em up, and one of the cheaper ones too. Now, is it any good? No idea, but regardless, picked it up. The other Book Off where I picked something up in was in Hiroshima. There was one, right in the dead center of the city. We had gotten there like at 6 in the evening. There wasn't much else to do, so I decided to wander over there. But that Book Off had very, very touristy prices, which is becoming more and more of a problem over there. The Japanese are starting to raise the prices massively for two reasons. One, they finally realized a lot of this stuff has value and that the tourists want it, so they're jacking up the prices. Two, the yen is in terrible shape financially, compared especially to the US dollar. And so they're doing that just to offset what it should cost. To give you an example of what I'm trying to say here, ideally for the Japanese, it should be about 108 yen to a dollar, because 8 was their sales tax. Now it's 10% sales tax. So now more ideally it'd be about 110 yen to a dollar, because then you can think of 1 yen as 1 American cent. But it's currently 160 yen to a dollar. It's not good for them. So it's causing inflation over there. And as a result, they also, to compensate for that, they have to raise prices on stuff, which is only making the problem even worse, because that's just mathematics and economics. But whatever, point is, from my perspective, stuff was cheaper traditionally, but not so much at this one Book Off. So the only reason I even bought anything from them is because, like I said, their PS5s and Switch stuff is kind of flat and often has a lot of things. I don't really care that much about collecting for current gen systems or relatively current gen systems in Japan anymore, just because I never know what's going to be brought over here, etc. These two for the PS5 I did pick up because I find their Western release unlikely, and apparently they do play back in English, so I was told, but I haven't verified that myself. First up, Earth Defense Forces 6. This is a series that I know we have had some of the issues releases over here. I don't know how many of these we've gotten, but I know like almost all of them come out there because it is a Japanese franchise. And the other one, which is the one I was more excited about, is this. I forget the name, but it's basically a DLC spin-off for Yakuza 7 for the PS5. I believe the actual DLC came out here, but the physical edition only came out in Japan, so it's got the disc, all that. And again, as I understand it, it should play back in English and everything, so that's pretty cool. And this is the thing I actually really wanted, but I wanted to make sure I crossed the tax threshold. In Japan, a lot of stores will support tax-free shopping, where you don't have to pay that 10% if you're a tourist. However, you have to cross over 5,000 or sometimes 5,500 yen to do that, or to qualify for it. Which used to be about $50. Now it's closer to $30 to give you some sense. But that game alone didn't reach the threshold, so I was like, I'll grab something else that's kind of cheap and just get over there. Mostly because even though you still end up paying more, you get more bang for your buck as it's word. You know what I'm trying to say? So I was happy to get that. Now, next up. In Hiroshima, there is another dedicated retro game store. Now, this is going to sound kind of odd because a lot of people who've never been to Japan in particular will always think that it's a place where, retro games are everywhere, some mom and pop stores must be common. They're not, actually, in reality. Dedicated retro game stores, like mom and pop ones run by just someone with a passion, there's maybe a handful of those that I've ever been made aware of. Because usually it's just games get dumped into bigger places or places that pretend that they are dedicated retro game stores, like a Super Potato, which is I'm sure the one a lot of you have heard of. That place is garbage, by the way. I would say only ever go there to treat it like a museum. Prices in there can be like twice eBay prices. It's terrible. The only reason to go into one of those is just to see what they have out of curiosity. You may occasionally find something that's of interest to you that you're actually willing to put down money on, but don't go there thinking, this is where I should buy video games. Don't. That they are taking advantage of you. Don't go to Super Potato if you don't have to. But my point is, the standalone mom and pop shop place is very rare. We actually found one in Hiroshima. He had a lot of weird stuff. I mean, like, you could tell this dude was into it because not only did he have Japanese stuff, he had American stuff. He even had European, like, exclusive stuff. This guy actually liked the hobby, which is very rare in Japan. So he only had a couple of things that I was like actually willing to put down money for. Nothing really crazy. Fighters Mega Mix, Sega Saturn. I actually have the North American version of this, and so you'd be like, well, what do you care about that? To my understanding, the Japanese version of this game actually is slightly different than the American one, as in it has an extra character. Pepsi Man is apparently in this version of the game. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but that's what I've always been told. I've never unlocked him myself, but apparently he is. Fortunately, this particular game is a common. This is like a 100 yen game, which is like 60 cents. Like, it's not a lot of money, so I was fine to put down for that on that gamble. The other couple of things I got for the original Xbox, a demo disc. For Rally Sport Challenge. I like my demo discs. I think that they're kind of a fun thing to collect for, even though obviously they're incomplete, they're not full games. They're just bizarre little releases. And sometimes, in certain systems cases, I'm really passionate about finding them. Like Dreamcast, obviously, is like my favorite system of all time. I want all the releases. For the OG Xbox, it's similar. So in that case, yeah, he had that one. I'd never seen it before. I was like, all right, cool. And then next up, for the Sega Saturn, just a piece of software called the Sega Saturn Electronic Book Operator. Not like some super rare thing or anything. It's just some sort of like digital guidebook type of, like instructions for the system or something. I just thought it was odd. It's also brand new, sealed, so I was like, okay, that's cool. I'll go ahead and pick that up. But yeah, just oddities. Next up, we were later down in Kyoto. So Kyoto is not my favorite city in Japan. Kyoto is where tourists love to go to the point of obsession, to the point where, and this will sound weird if you've never been to Japan, but if you do go there, you will find that when you see other tourists, you get really annoyed and you want to get away from them the longer you've been there, because tourists always behave stupidly. There's a term for that. It's called baka gaijin, dumb foreigner. And so your goal when you're there, even though you are a tourist, is to try and not look like them. You don't want to be associated with their bad behavior. Unfortunately, Kyoto is like the epicenter of that, because that's like where all tourists want to go. This is the true Japan, man. and it's not. It's at this point, it's more white people than Japanese. I don't mean that literally, but almost figuratively. It's very annoying. And so I try not. It's also a very crowded city, so I try to avoid Kyoto as much as possible. But we did find a couple of stores, only one that was not either a Surigaya or a Hardop. And in this one case, it was just like a weirdo store that had like miscellaneous toys and stuff. And they had a little video game section. And in it, it had a demo disc I thought was interesting. For the Xbox 360, Lost Odyssey, just a demo disc. This game came out in North America and, you know, whatever. But I think I even have it. But, like, yeah, just an oddball demo disc. It was only, like, 220 yen, and that's with tax, although because it didn't reach tax, it did not reach the threshold to avoid tax, which is fine because it's only 220 yen, which is, like, what, $1.50, if that? It's probably actually less. And so I was like, whatever, I don't care. So that was just cool to get. My last day of game hunting, fast forward all the way near to the end of the month, I went out to Chiba. And I'm kind of cheating by including this in this video, but there's a store, it's called like Momotaro, like, you know, and it's associated with Surigaya. It's technically supported by them, but it's not actually a Surigaya. And they had a couple of video games content that I was interested in. Again, demo disc for the GameCube. I'd never seen this one before, so I picked it up immediately. That's another reason I like pick up demo discs, because not only are they odd and I don't usually see them, but they're also very cheap because nobody really cares about these things. Baten Kaitos, which was, of course, a release we got over here, but just a standalone demo disc of it for the GameCube, which I thought was neat. And then one actual heavy hitter game that I put down money for, Robo Army for the Neo Geo CD. The Neo Geo CD, I do not have any particular collecting goals. I've always said to myself I'm not going for a full set, though I am getting dangerously close to one. But there's just a few of those, like, the last remaining titles are the ones that are just, like, financially irresponsible to even consider, much less really do. So I doubt I'll ever finish the set. But every time I find one I need that it's, like, within financial reason, I'm like, all right, pull the trigger. But there's only so many times you're going to pull that rabbit out of the hat. Because I am getting to the point where there's some that are, like, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And I'm like, dame, you know, I don't want that. I'm good. Okay, moving on. From a section that a lot of you, I'm sure, want to go to. Akihabara, which is an area I usually avoid just because I'm not into anime. So, like, most of Akihabara, that's what it is a lot of weeb stuff. And the retro game sections there have gotten much, much worse. Friends, which was the only really decent store, no longer exists. And there are a bunch of Surigayas there, but the majority of them are just all anime content now. They've largely pushed all the stuff into just one store. And that store is next to another store called Beep. Beep is a cool store, but it really is for people who are more into retro PCs than consoles. I go in there and occasionally look at the stuff, and they do from time to time have stuff I care about, but most of the time, not really. In this case, they did. They had a big, nice selection of Dreamcast demo discs I had never seen before, so I went ahead and picked them up. Power Smash 2, tennis game. Again, all demo discs, so not the official ones, not the final releases. I think this one's called Sengoku Turb or something like that. I have the release, but demo disc. This one was interesting because it's actually demo disc for two different games. Aero Dancing and Power Jet Racing 2001. And finally, Evolution, which was like an RPG. This is the demo disc for that. You can typically tell if it's a demo disc because it won't usually have much in the way of cover art, if any at all, and always says somewhere on it, not for sale, meaning it's, you know, not the official release. But yeah, so I got those. That's cool for me because obviously I'm big into the Dreamcast and all that. Next up, so we were out in Nagoya and we went to two stores. There is a Super Potato in Nagoya, which we did go into, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And then, like, right next to it, there's one of the very few mom and pop retro stores. That store was weird, man, because, like, it's super compact, it's super just dusty. They do maintain it, but you get the feeling like they put price tags on stuff like decades ago and it just sits. I don't know how they stay in business otherwise, but I don't know. So we were pulling stuff and being like, it's caked in dust because it's just been there forever. It was weird because they had so much cool stuff and, like, none of it that we actually really needed. Just like a couple items. They only had one thing that I could pick up, which was this. For the original Xbox, it's a demo disc in a full CD case or full DVD case for Double Steel. This was called Reckless, the Yakuza missions in North America. And there actually already is a different demo disc of this that I've got. This one I had never seen before. So I thought, all right, that's cool. It was only like 400 yen. So I was like, all right, that's like $2.50. Like, I'll do that. And then, as I said, we went into the Super Potato. Now, I hate Super Potato. I cannot stress this enough. Super Potato is a place you go to just to... It's like going to a museum where technically you can buy the stuff behind the glass. But I really don't recommend it. Not only is it sensory overload, but the prices in there are legitimately terrible. Even when you factor in everything. They don't do the tax-free thing either, by the way. So it really just sucks. So the only time to buy something in there is if you absolutely must have this item and you're out of options. And they had something I was like, crap. I have not found that anywhere. I must do it. They had a game for the Casio PV-1000. Now, last summer, I got one of those when I was in Japan. The Casio PV-1000, I still have to do like a full video on it, is a console that came out in the 3rd gen, really to compete with the Famicom and the at the time Sega SG-1000. It really is more like 2nd gen technology, but timing-wise, that's where it belongs. It got destroyed. It was very briefly on the market, and I think it was actually famously recalled, and only 13 games, or maybe it was 11 games, were ever released for it. It's a very, very, very small library of games. I actually have a flash card for it with all 11 or 13 games built into it. So it would have just been cool to have one legitimate game, and the Super Potato had it. Pachinko, which, by the way, is the single most common game on the system. It was like 4,000 yen, which is about $25. Definitely too much for what it is, but boxed, complete, and I was just like, look, I wanted a game. I have never seen one any other place. They often look like MSX games, but no, they're not. They're specifically PV-1000 games. So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna do it. I'm just gonna pull the trigger. That's not gonna break the bank, and I'll be fine with that. So there you go. I got a PV-1000 game, and I'm happy about that. So when I do the video, whenever that happens, I'll actually have something to go with it to talk about. Okay, so that's it for these Japanese pickups. Again, stay tuned. There will be the Surugai ones, the hard-off ones, and then there will be all the adventure videos. Now, it is package time, so while I was gone, various things showed up, some of which I think I know what they are, but to be honest, I'm not entirely certain, so we'll just start here with the first one. This one comes from... It comes from the UK, and I'm pretty sure I know what this is, but not 100%. I think this is from the Bitmap Bureau. I think. It doesn't say on this packaging anywhere, so we will rip this off and test and be sure. Yep, it is from Bitmap Bureau. Let's move that. This is, if I remember correctly, for the Game Boy Advance. It is Xenocrisis. Yep, there it is. Xenocrisis for the Game Boy Advance. Xenocrisis is a cool game. I did a video on the Dreamcast version years ago. This game is like on everything at this point, to the point of like hilarity. It's like a Robotron meets Resident Evil a little bit, and you go from... It feels like something that really very much belonged on Neo Geo hardware, which makes sense. It did end up there, originally for the Sega Mega Drive or Genesis. And you'd run around, you shoot these aliens, you have to clear the rooms and continue onward. I'm actually an NPC in this game, so you can rescue me on the regular, which is pretty cool. So now they've got it available for the Game Boy Advance, so if you want to pick it up, you will have that opportunity. I'll put a link in the description to check it out. So huge shout out to the guys at Bitmap Bureau for sending that my way. They didn't have to do that, but they did it anyway, so thank you very much for that. Next up, we have another one from the UK, which, again, I'm pretty sure I know what it is. Yep, that is what it is. This comes from a buddy of mine named Alistair, who is in my Discord, and we talk to from time to time. Oh, wow, okay, he threw in more than I expected to. For the Sega Dreamcast, this is a game called Flea 2. I did a video on the first Flea, so there's the game. He also included the soundtrack, and I guess the soundtrack special edition? I don't know the difference other than this one just has Dreamcast artwork on it. I'll have to ask him about that. So it's the Dreamcast edition of Flea 2 is part of the NES Special Edition release. It includes Flea 2 Dreamcast playable disc, soundtrack, Windows version, digital manual. So I guess these are supposed to come together, and this is a separate thing, but it's the same. I don't know. Either way, all these are here. I'm going to do a separate video on this because I always cover new Dreamcast indies. This is a press disc, to my understanding. So to that end, it will get its own video. So huge shout out to Alistair there. I'll put a link in the description, and you guys can stay tuned for that upcoming video. Apparently, he only printed 200 copies of this game, and I have number 174, so keep an eye out for that. I guess if you want to pick one of these up, it is going to be a very low print run affair. And then finally, this comes from the Shenmue Dojo, which is awesome. So I'm pretty sure I just broke the packaging. Ugh, that's okay. That's okay. We will pick this out. Yep, this is what I expected it to be. This is an issue of Shenmue World Volume 3, which is very cool. So Shenmue World, I've shown a couple of these in the past. Basically, the Shenmue community gets together and does a whole bunch of stuff where they include, like, there's a new magazine in there. There's so these, like, little plastic figurines of Ryu and Shenhua. There's a new Shenmue World, I don't know if that's a DVD or a Blu-ray. Oh, it's a music CD, the Shenwave Collection Volume 2. There's a whole bunch, like, my buddy James Reiner actually did an unboxing where he showed all this stuff. I kind of don't want to do that right now, but yeah, there's that. Speaking of Shenmue, though, and huge shout out to the Shenmue Dojo for sending this to my way. Again, I'll put a link in the description, so if they still have these, you can maybe buy one. I'm going to have a new Shenmue video coming up, one that I think you guys will enjoy. I took Eric Kelso, he was the voice of Guizhong, Fukusan, and Ren in the original Shenmue games. He lives in Japan, and we're buddies, and we went down to Yokosuka together so I could, like, show him Yokosuka, and so he could actually get a sense of that. So that'll be on my travel channel, and then there's going to be, like, another one where, let's just say, he plays Fukusan. I'm going to leave it at that, but those videos will come up, and you guys will get to see them. It's going to be a lot of fun. So huge shout out again to the Shenmue Dojo. Obviously, you know, let's get Shenmue 4. Let's make it happen. And shout out, of course, to Alistair for Flea 2, and shout out to Bitmap Bureau for Xenocrisis. Again, there will be links in the description to all three of those. Thank you guys very much for watching and enjoying this, hopefully. Please stay tuned. Again, there will be a ton of game hunting videos coming up. There's going to be pickups videos. There's going to be that Shenmue video. There's going to be some videos left over from a couple of months ago that I still need to finish up. This is a lot. There's a lot going on. And stay tuned because that Dreamcast video will come as well. So anyway, until all that stuff happens, in the meantime, thank you guys very much for watching. If you could do me a favor, please like this video, comment down below, subscribe if you've never done that before, as well as check out all the social media stuff in the description. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, Patreon, Spreadshirt, Travel Channel, etc. Appreciate the support on those platforms. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all later.